Hello everyone, my name is Reewyn and welcome back to part 2 of Byler and Analyses. First of all, thank you so much for the support on the first episode. You're all amazing. Secondly, when I made the first one, whilst there was a lot of evidence, it barely scratched the surface of the sheer amount of evidence and proof there is, as well as what we can speculate about. For this part, I decided to lean into my FNAF Theorist side more. What's the difference? We're going to analyse the behaviour of Mike, Elle and Will based on real-world psychology in order to predict where they'll end up. First, we're going to look at Mike and Elle's relationship versus Mike and Will's in terms of a healthy relationship. Of course, their relationship is breaking down, so I first decided to look at the behaviour of people in love as well as people with trauma. The Cleveland Clinic states that a healthy relationship, at its core, consists of the following: empathy and kindness, reliability and commitment, mutual respect for boundaries, the ability to work together as a team, and similar values and goals. Let's break down these aspects as part of Mike and Elle's relationships. First, empathy and kindness. I sat here for a good 10 minutes trying to think of just one example of empathy of Mike towards Elle, and I just drew a blank. He is worried for her, but every time he gets mad and attacks her, his response is never to consider her own feelings. I thought this, I thought that, I felt this. It's just a whole lot of what if you don't need me as opposed to I didn't realize you were feeling that way. There's a lack of understanding here. The thing is, as well, Mike and Elle fight so much. The deeper you try and think of their romantic moments across the season, the less you realize there are. We have the snowball scene, we have the start of season 3, and then Mike saying I love you. I'm not including Elle saying it here because of Mike's reaction. The fake date where they're not having fun. I direct your attention to Will's POV versus Angela's POV of them skating. And the season 4 confession scene, which, if you watched my last video, is borderline more a romantic moment between Mike and Will. In comparison, every time Mike apologizes to Will, he acknowledges what he actually did wrong rather than just making excuses. A good example of this is the season 3 fight. We were just messing around, it's a fun campaign, I'm sorry. Not only does he acknowledge he was being an idiot right away, he accepts his fault. In season 4, he explains that he was too focused on Elle, which is where the issues supposedly stemmed from, and laid his heart out that Hawkins wasn't the same without Will. There was nothing like this with Mike and Elle, and that's because there was no empathy as to why she was lying. He never understands why she is hiding it. Reliability and commitment. For one, Mike isn't reliable when it comes to 11 at all. He's barely there for her, even being one of the major factors in her going back to training to have powers, which nearly cost her life multiple times. Meanwhile, season 2 is a brilliant example of when Will needs Mike. He's always there to the point of sleeping beside his hospital bed and not allowing anyone else to look after Will. Even when he runs away to Castle Byers and first feels the mind flayer again, or Vecna, I'm always slightly confused who he feels, or both. Mike is again there, calling a meeting. Commitment? Oh, this guy. Whilst 11 is committed having a shrine for Mike, having tons of letters, Mike literally screws one of her letters up, but has a binder of Will's drawings under his bed. She has no issue saying I love you, yet Mike does. And before you say it's because his parents are in a loveless marriage, Nancy can say it to Jonathan, but not Steve because she doesn't love him. Just like Mike can bear his heart out to Will, but not 11. Heck, when they break up, Mike isn't even that interested, more annoyed than anything. Look at the parallels of his reaction to his fight with 11 and Mike, and then also look at the parallels of being kissed by 11 at the end of season 3 versus Will saying he won't join a new party. And this was slightly romantic because look what the Duffer Brothers tweeted right after! Mutual respect for boundaries. Both Mike and 11 suffer from this one, surprisingly, especially in season 3 when they start to become distanced, and I believed where their relationship begins to crumble the most. With 11, she's travelling to watch Mike in her mind palace thingy, which he is obviously uncomfortable with. You then have Mike getting mad at 11 for going outside, being severely overprotective because he feels the need to protect someone, and having them need him. Meanwhile, with Mike and Will, it's always mutual. They always have this sense of companionship, and whenever a boundary is violated, it's not my fault you don't like girls. They make up with genuine, sincere conversations, which never happens between Mike and Elle. It's only half-assed conversations when they're separated, or fights when they actually try and have a deep conversation. The connection between them is kind of shallow at this point, to be honest. The ability to work together as a team makes me giggle because there's literally a line directly from Mike about how he and Will should work together as a team. In comparison, Mike and Mileven struggle to work together, their relationship becoming entangled with more and more lies the longer it lasts as they try to piece together what is left of their toxic relationship. That's the thing, it's not healthy for either of them. There's a few seemingly sweet scenes, though as discussed, a lot of them are mild bullshit, but those are few and far between, usually a tiny smidging of it amongst a whole sea of anger, sadness and tears across the entire rest of the seasons. Ever since the start of Season 3, their relationship has been crumbling. Meanwhile, throughout every single season, Mike and Will work incredibly well as a team. An example I love that isn't discussed as often as you'd expect is in Susie's house. When they're convincing her to decode the message, it's Mike and Will that are adding on to each other's words and ultimately convince her to do what they need her to do. It's Will that encourages Mike to try and help Mileven, with the whole "you're the heart" speech being the only thing that is holding their relationship together at this point, because you cannot tell me their relationship has solid ground at this point. It's rough. The next bit of psychology I would like to look at is when a relationship is toxic or is ending. In terms of Mike and Mileven's relationship, I looked at multiple sites for this. The first is an article by the Somerset Domestic Abuse Charity. Bear in mind, I'm not saying in any way that the relationship is abusive, just toxic. This page has a list of 10, but 3 of them I want to point out specifically. Possessiveness, responsibility deflection, and betrayal. A massive part of the whole Season 3 arc was that Elle felt too stifled, with Max and Elle attacking Mike on how he wants to own her. Whilst it was for a different reason technically, aka Mike being worried, it definitely begins to raise a red flag. Responsibility deflection is also in Season 3 as well as Season 4, specifically when he blames Max for helping Elle conspire against him, and then the whole "I say I love you, who said I don't?" In both of these situations, he doesn't acknowledge his own faults, instead planting the blame on Max or some imaginary person. Even when he does his whole fake "I love you" speech in Season 4, he takes no accountability for being a dick. In Season 3, he doesn't either, saying "I love you" behind her back, but never directly to her. Finally, we have betrayal. He lies to her about his grandma, digging himself deeper and deeper into a pit, then switching the narrative to again fall to take the blame and decide that girls are just a different species. It's not untrue for Elle's side too, betrayal and lying. She lies to Mike, but not so that she won't take accountability. She just wants to be normal like everyone else, so she denies that part of herself. It's at least a lot more toxic on Mike's side. I then researched an article from the site Calm, which was clinically approved by a doctor. The one that stuck out here was blaming. And again, my mind is drawn to the Mileven Season 3 scene. Again, Mike doesn't take accountability, blaming girls, and therefore Elle, for just being an entirely different species, rather than admitting the very obvious thing that he shouldn't have lied. There's also persistent unhappiness. They're not happy together. They're always angry or upset with each other, and it's just not nice for either of them. And then there's the communication breakdown. They can't talk properly anymore. Mike just always becomes defensive and he can't let go. Elle can't get through to him, and that's just not how a relationship works. You cannot continue without communication. Next, we'll research how to tell when a relationship is ending. We have an article from the Chelsea Psychology Clinic here. There are 5 main stages of a relationship ending: dissatisfaction, emotional withdrawal, conflict escalation, evaluation, and decision. The first one that comes to my mind dissatisfaction is at the start of Season 4, where Elle feels dissatisfied that Mike never says "I love you" and won't take accountability for it, leading to her literally leaving to go to another facility. Then we have emotional withdrawal, which reminds me of the van scene. Mike begins to accept that she's drawing away from him, stepping back and doesn't need him anymore. He begins to emotionally detach as he realizes the truth. We have conflict escalation in the "I love you, you're my superhero" scene, which I think will be touched upon again in Season 5. Their relationship was only curbed because of Will's words, patching it up, but I suspect these last stages will happen in season 5. It's me, future Reewyn. Did you miss me? So basically, when I was editing this, I realised I was looking at too close a lens, because you can actually see this more in season 3 and 4. Dissatisfaction being in season 3 when they had the breakup, emotional withdrawal being when they both kind of like take a step back and kind of settle into not having a relationship, or it could be the van scene. Conflict escalation is again the breakup. Evaluation is more the season 4 van scene where Mike is thinking, hey, maybe this isn't working because she doesn't need me. And then obviously decision is the season 5 thing. We will also see the evaluation. We will also see the evaluation and decision. I think evaluation will be subtle in the first half of season 5, with Mike paying more attention to Will now, as well as leaning more away from Elle. We actually see some of this evaluation at the end of season 4, with Elle not talking to Mike anymore, restarting the cycle and reaching that emotional distancing again. I think the decision will happen late in Volume 1, leaving discussion and speculation going round until finally it culminates in a breakup as Mike turns towards Will. I feel like this scene could even be when they're already broken up or taking steps to realise their relationship isn't working. It's intimate, but not in a romantic way. Mike is finally spilling his feelings. I then moved to Very Well Mind, where there were 4 warning signs that a relationship is over. Number 1, the intimacy just isn't there anymore. You don't actually see this until you look from Angela's POV. They're holding hands, but don't seem very physically intimate with each other. It's very important to notice that most of season 4 is from Will's POV. Whenever it's not Will's, such as Angela and Susie's scenes, not only does Mileven look less attached, but both Will and Mike seem closer too. Next was, you can't problem solve together. And they can't. They cannot communicate to save their lives, or anyone else for a fact. Rep that Max, ayy! Next is, you feel alone when you're next to them. This is very true for Mike and Elle. Elle shows that she feels alone to the point of leaving to train her powers. He doesn't say I love you to her, and she feels so lonely. She doesn't tell the truth, and it's isolating. The last is, you just know it, and that's the obvious part. In season 3, when Elle kisses him and says I love you, Mike just looks shocked and confused. Yet when Will says he won't join a new party, he looks so happy and pretty much in love. It's clear that Mike isn't in love with Elle and he feels it, but will just deny it. Next, we're going to look at when you've fallen out of love with someone. Now, this is important because it's not entirely out of the question that Mike was in love with Elle until season 3, where he realised their relationship didn't work. Obviously, we know Will at least was attracted to Mike at the end of season 2, but it's not entirely out of the question that this scene is his moment of realisation. For this, I actually looked at an Ask Reddit thread, since I wanted to look at real-world examples before moving on to a scientific response. Quite a few points stuck out to me. The first is, you make excuses to avoid them, and that is true as of season 3. Whilst it's partially because of what Hopper did, it was far from impossible to just have Elle come to Mike's house and he explains things, or at the mall. Instead, he intentionally leaned into the lie, digging himself into a deeper and deeper pit. He's starting to unintentionally distance himself, considering he has a reaction of disgust to breaking up with Elle. You stop sharing anything about you and your day. This is very present in the Dustin experiment book. Dustin, the absolute legend, straight up mentions that it seems like Mike has nothing to say. Both of them not communicating, which is a stark contrast to Mike refusing to let go of the radio when he's talking to Will. With Elle, he doesn't tell her anything, but with Will, he talks about Hellfire Club and his life. You get frustrated with them really easily. Mike throws a hissy fit after the Angela incident, and then gets mad at Elle because why are other people saying he doesn't love her? Writing this is so funny because it's just, why don't you say you love me? Who said that? Not communicating. And they're not. They're hiding their lives and pain from each other. It's awful. Impatience. Mike can't just be patient and accept his faults, instead borderline cutting Elle off and saying, who says that, refusing to acknowledge the root of the issue. Now we look at an officially approved article from Women's Health magazine. You feel apathetic about your relationship and where it's headed. Mike begins to accept their relationship is ending. He knows Elle doesn't need him, and even though it frustrates him, he's ready to let go until Will fixes, big quotation marks here, it with lies. Even in season 3, he's frustrated but just not sad. Even in the Dustin experiment, Mike is questioning his relationship, getting advice from Dustin, and realizing nothing about their long-distance relationship matches. You're not communicating because they aren't. I don't have to explain this unless you watch the show with your eyes and ears covered. You know this is true. There's an increase in conflict. Again, until the van scene, Mike and Elle were fighting right until the end. The biggest one that sticks out? Your lives are moving in different directions that don't feel aligned. Elle doesn't need Mike anymore, and that is okay. She is her own person, and that's development for her. Mike needs to forge his own path too. He states himself that he's been so focused on Elle, he hasn't been focused on other people, denying his own feelings of missing Will so much, and just... the fact he says nothing to Elle this whole season, my god! So, what's next? We've established that not only is Mileven ending due to its toxicity, and also Mike and Eleven could be brilliant, supportive friends. Now, we have to prove that Mike has internalized homophobia and is hiding his queerness, whether bisexual or gay. For this, we're using Laurel Therapy, an approved therapist who is actually queer as well. We start with anxiety and depression. This is 100% a thing that isn't discussed in the show, but is definitely present. This is something that is highlighted in the Dustin experiment, where they all write their biggest fears, and Mike's is letting down the people who need him. He has such high expectations for himself and how he must be, to the point that it is crushing him. Completely unrelated, but one more really cute thing from the Dustin experiment is how when Mike talks about how he's losing Elle, he also brings up Will. He's like, Dustin's like, wait, hang on, we were talking about Elle, why is Will here? He appears anxious in season 4 too, awkward. He's buying airport clothes so that he can fit in. He's awkward with Will and Jonathan. Next is self-sabotaging behaviours, which is what Mike is doing with the whole I can't say I love you, albeit unintentionally. He tells Will he didn't know what to say when it's clear what he should have said. It's avoidance. Avoidance of affection is just the whole season 4 scene. It's... yeah. He also shows a fear of rejection. He's afraid to show his feelings, being people-pleasing, dedicating himself completely to Elle, when he admits that he was focusing on Elle too much, to admit that he really did miss Will. He buys new clothes to fit in, act as a boyfriend should, because he doesn't want to upset anyone. He tells Elle, I love you, and gives a Will buys original speech, purely because he's told to. Like, we have conflict in relationships, and you know, Mike and Elle have had a massive fight at least once per season. Their relationship just isn't working at all. Shame and feelings of inadequacy hurt because it's so true for Mike. As we mentioned, his biggest fear is not being there for the people who need him, almost like that's where he places his value, as help for others. He knows Elle doesn't need him to feel secure. He needs someone to need him, and that person just isn't Elle. He needs reassurance in a relationship, and it's the kind Elle can't give, just like Mike can't provide the kind of affection that Elle needs. Denial. Again, he outright admits that he's been focused on Elle too much to consider how much he missed Will. He always latches onto an idea to brush back just how much he cares for Will, whether it's Elle or it's just the idea of growing up. He can't accept that it's okay to like Will like that, and it's only hurting her by not admitting it. Only by confronting these feelings can he begin to move on and for the two of them to heal. Now, we are moving on to Mike's affection for Will. We'll start by researching how you know you have a crush on someone. We're going to use Oprah Daily for this. I was going to use Healthline, but to read the article, they needed all my data, which was quite frankly ridiculous. You want to share your world with them. Instantly, yes, we'll go crazy together. Hawkins isn't the same without you. Telling Will all about his life in Hawkins in the book. He wants to share his life with Will and feels the loss so deeply the only way he can hide it is by trying to salvage his relationship he knows is falling apart. They're always in your thoughts. This one is half symbolic, half, once again, the Dustin experiments. Dustin coming in clutch, as always. For one, Will is always in the background of the shots in season 4. It's actually memed quite a lot because in every Mileven scene, he's just chilling in the background. It's a literal love triangle. In the Dustin experiment, when Mike talks about long-distance relationships, Dustin assumes he's just talking about Elle, but then Mike brings up Will, which is actually quite funny, to be honest. They became a priority. This entire season, once Elle is gone, Mike and Will share so many glances. Mike is so interested in Will to the point that on Mike and Elle's date, he still notices that Will has been rolling his eyes all day and moping. Will is his primary focus, even when he's confessing his love to his girlfriend. The most in love look he gives is to Will, not Mike. I mean, Elle, please run, your boyfriend is gay. I scroll down in the article and read they make you feel better about yourself and nearly teared up. Oh my god, the gays. Mike only feels needed and loved again because of Will's words, described as Elle. Elle needs you, Mike, and she always will. Mike looks so much happier, reassured, his own sanity restored because someone needs him. Will needs him. God, they're so well written. You're kind of freaking out. I just want to show you this one scene. You don't need any other context. And finally, it feels right. He's more transparent with Will. Mike is so comfortable that he can easily spill out his feelings, what he's thinking, and his deepest thoughts. He looks so happy around Will, and his eyes flick down, looking so in love because it's just what is right for Mike. And finally, we step into WikiHow. How to know if you're in love, because I 100% think Mike is and is just in denial. First, you can't picture a future without this person, and with that I draw your attention to Hawkins isn't the same without you. Mike can accept letting go of Elle, but his life just isn't the same without Will. He could have said both of you, he could have said I missed you too, but he only honed in on Will. Their opinions mean a lot to you. Will's words are what convinced Mike not to give up on his relationship. Even if they're coming from supposedly Elle, Mike looks so infatuated with Will, flicking his eyes down again. I want you guys to know as well, they spent 12 hours filming the van scene, meaning every detail was intentional, whereas Mike's speech to Elle is partially improvised. Like, dude. They make you want to be a better person. You're the heart, Mike. I don't need to explain that one. The tough times don't diminish your feelings. They were separated, not communicating, yet Mike still poured his heart out to Will. Oh, that's so cute, oh my god. They've had massive fights, yet always come back to each other. Cuties. You're willing to step outside your comfort zone, and Mike communicates fantastically to Will, explaining how he feels towards Elle and wanting advice because even though it's scary to confront his feelings, he's doing it for Will. You can say what's on your mind. Ladies and gentlemen and everything in between, the script is writing itself. Mike loves Will and it's so obvious in how he acts towards him, especially in comparison to Elle. Their relationship ticks every box, and the whole reason Mike hasn't done anything about it, nor has Will, is because of homophobia. Will grew up being bullied by Lonnie for just being suspected gay. Mike grew up watching Will get bullied for it. This is what they need to overcome in season 5. Mike and 11 need to move on, and Will needs to acknowledge the truth. It's so easy for this to happen, and it's so set up for it to happen, and just... Anyway, this wasn't as long as last time, but I hope this analysis was deep enough for you guys and kind of explains a few things and gets rid of that pesky Byler doubt. Again, thank you so much for your support last time. Just to let you guys know, my memberships will be opening up very soon. Candy Cadets will be able to join a members-only monthly live stream where I'll be editing videos live as well as answering your questions and listening to requests of what you want to see. So, if you want me to see specific Byler content, please join me there. You'll get to see new projects well in advance, as well as see my videos 2 days before non-members. If you want to give content ideas, alternatively, hop into my Discord. I'm often online. Thank you so much, guys, and have a wonderful day, everyone. And remember, the lion doesn't concern itself with Byler doubt. Oh, also, side note, this is just while the kind of outro is playing. I've not scripted this, but the freaking letter from Mike and Will is crazy, the whole I miss clouds, I miss you, because it explains so much. Because Will's like, hey, I don't like writing letters. This sucks. So Mike's like, oh, I'll just call Will. Well, the line's always busy, and Will probably assumes that Mike is calling for Will, so Mike is calling for L, so he's like, okay, I'm not gonna pick it up. And it created a vicious cycle, and that's why Mike is salty.